future, right? Based on the sales from that event alone and some follow-up, I had a projected $20 million in revenue in my pipeline, and over $1 million in actual cash in, just by selling our services, which was using AI to guide English language students into writing marketing materials for companies. I thought this was a great idea. People that understand how to write with the early days of AI, it was wonderful. What I failed to grasp until it was far too late was what would happen if everybody found out about the technology that I was using, which I was sharing publicly. And what happened was within 3 months of my onstage showcase, every single one of those clients, except one, canceled their contract with us. And then that one canceled shortly afterwards. And they all pivoted to the same artificial intelligence stack that I was the one, bragging about on stage. The revenue that I'd forecasted evaporated overnight. I literally gave away the playbook. Now, I'm not going to say I was the only one talking about AI that year. I wasn't. There were other people talking about it, but I was definitely one of the ones that went on stage and showcased exactly what we were doing. And that bruise became a serious lesson. In 1 quarter, I shifted from AI evangelist to an AI realist. And it's probably one of the best things that could happen to me because it put me ahead of the curve of the danger that everyone is in today. And I became borderline afraid of what would happen when everybody has access to the same AI power. And I decided I wanted to understand it, right? How can I guide companies to use AI ethically, responsibly, and strategically before they get sidelined? And I knew this was real. I've seen it happen. I've seen, okay, I can make a lot of money with it and I can become obsolete all within a period of 3 months. Losing the $20 million pipeline didn't end my business career, obviously. It catapulted it. And today, my mission is simple. I want to make sure we keep the human hand on the throttle while the algorithm fuels the engine. And since that wake up call, I've guided over 2,000 business owners through using AI in their company. And I specialize in exchanging my knowledge of AI either for revenue or for equity in some situations. I take, a piece of a company. And I firmly put my money on a company that partners with AI versus replaces their team with AI. If I had to pick and choose, this is what I would say is the right method in order to do this. And I don't really care what industry you're in, whether it's a construction firm, which I've worked with a lot. I own a construction firm, co-own a construction firm, a business consultancy, or even if you do nutrition, no matter what, AI is going to speed up that process and it's going to make it better. But if you trust it 100%, I truly believe that you're going to struggle. Here's what AI is actually doing. AI is devaluing time. We've all learned that time equals money. But in a world of AI where AI can do something faster and often more reliably, your time is being devalued. No one values your time anymore. If you said to me, I spent 3 weekends working on this project, in the background, I'm like, I could have done it in AI in 20 minutes. Why are you wasting your time? And that is the response that people are getting. So we no longer value time. We value our own time, but we no longer value anybody else's. It was Teddy Roosevelt that said, in any moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing. The next best thing is the wrong thing. And the worst thing is nothing. Now, Teddy Roosevelt came up with that long before large language models and AI was ready to finish our sentences. But the concept is true. If you're sitting back thinking that AI isn't good enough and isn't going to be good enough to replace you, that is absolutely the wrong thing to do. In fact, arguably the worst thing because you're doing nothing. Jumping on board with AI early was the right thing to do. Jumping on with AI today is the best thing you can be doing, right? Given everything that's there, this is something that you have to do. Every tick of the clock gives your competitor or maybe even your rival in a company or your career rival, it gives them a chance to get better at AI, to automate a task that you still do by hand. And now that task is free and fast, and no one will ever pay you for it again. No one. Now, we've seen this in the past, right? All you have to do is ask about the spinning jenny, which transformed the industrial age, creating the industrial revolution. And anyone who did not move into automation back then, their business was just completely destroyed. And this is a massive example of what we're dealing with today. Every so often, a technological advancement comes, and when it does, you can't ignore it. You gotta jump on board, and if you don't, you're gonna be in trouble. And there are two types of people. There are early adopters and late adopters. If you're an early adopter, you tend to win. You tend to end up getting the financial benefits. You tend to be a thought leader. Everyone looks to you. If you're a late adopter, then you find that your salary and your wages basically get indexed to a data point in history where they talk about all the people that didn't move fast enough. I think it's Oxford Economics and the World Economic Forum disagree on exactly the exact minutia, but they mostly agree that by 2028, one third of today's workforce will be unemployable. Not unemployed, unemployable. This is a statistic we've never seen before. One third of all people will never work again, as in they have no value to the workforce. And that's kind of terrifying if you think about it, considering the Great Depression was about a 25% unemployment rate. 33% unemployable is a scenario that we can't predict because since the agricultural revolution, we haven't seen that many people not really working or having anything to do. So right now, there really are going to be two diverging paths. There are people that are fully AI enabled. They embrace AI, they use it for everything. They don't resist it, they don't fight it. And they understand that that is not just an advantage, but is now the way. And there are people that cling to yesterday's thought patterns, workflows, and ideals. They still think that software has a value. In a world where anybody can use AI to literally iterate a piece of software within half an hour, any software you create is devalued. I don't know what you're thinking. You guys are coders. You're like, yeah, it doesn't matter. It's not going to be any good. Of course it's not going to be any good. It's going to be nowhere near as good as something you put time in, but it will be done. It will be usable. It will be practical, and it will let them work through the kinks until they get to the one they like. It's not a question of whether that's going to happen. That's already happening. It's a question of will you be the person to guide them through it? See, you have to adopt it. You got to be the one to do it. You got to be, look, I'll get you draft one made within 20 minutes. You can start playing with it. Tell me what you like and what you don't like about it. We'll tweak it as we go. That is an AI-enabled worker. Someone who understands that they're not working against AI, they're working with AI. And that is so key. Now, at the end of the day, there are always going to be people that will resist this, right? You're going to have your bespoke, amazing coders. These are the people that are like, we never use AI. Everything's crafted by hand. Much in the same way that there are some people that still have a vinyl collection. I had a vinyl collection when I was younger. I sold it. And now all my music is digital on a cloud somewhere. And I don't really care that I don't own it. But it is true that there are still people creating vinyl and there are still people collecting it. And there will still be people that code by hand. And they will be prized people. But you really don't want to bank on being one of them because that won't be most people. Most people are going to have Spotify or the equivalent, okay? So some people are big fans of stoicism, especially in times of disruption. I mean, let's be real. We're in a very disrupting time right now with various wars going on around the world and economic uncertainty and AI uncertainty. And the phrase for the Stoics is memento mori. But I like to think of another phrase that we should all remember, which is memento obsolescence. Remember that your current workflow will die. What you currently do will no longer be valid. Time is an asset that AI devalues daily. And because of that, every effort that you put in something becomes less and less value as AI improves over and over again. At the end of the day, it's worth noting that since the dawn of time, there have only been 4 careers. Just 4. This is an old philosopher teacher taught me this, and I'm sure he quoted it from somewhere. And the four careers are the soldier, the missionary, the operator, and the fool. And one of my favorite phrases about this is this: the fool is not really a career because you're a fool if you think you'll make money being a fool. Now, Those phrases are quite vague. What do we really mean? By fool, we mean entertainer. We mean actor, actress, singer, influencer, social media star. And what we're really saying is not that you can't make a career out of it. It's that most people won't. Most people will fail. So if you're banking on becoming wealthy by being an entertainer, by captivating people's imagination or being a stand-up comedian, you're probably not going to succeed. That doesn't mean you shouldn't go for it, but don't bank your revenue on it. Don't bank your paycheck on it, right? Which means there's really only three careers you can rely on: soldier, missionary, and operator. Well, what are they? A soldier is someone who protects and enforces. When failure costs lives, where lawsuits are involved, or where there's an existential profit hit, a human is going to have to sign the paper. A human is going to have to be the ambulance person that picks you up and checks your heartbeat. That doesn't mean we won't have AI assistants, we won't have robot assistants there, but we're going to have a human there. Same in war zones. I'm sure most of war will be done by drones, but there will be humans nearby, just in case. What if an EMP hits? What if there's some kind of technological problem that breaks down? You've got to have humans on the front line. The soldiers are safe. There will always be a career for soldiers. Next, there are missionaries. Missionaries have a purpose, they have a vision. They've got an idea that is so compelling that strangers will trade their comfort for commitment and to join that cause. Now, AI cannot possibly be a missionary. AI doesn't make the decision to go to some random location and spread a new vision or convince people to move to another planet. AI just doesn't have that passion. It's a very human cause to have purpose and have vision, especially when most of the time it's kind of crazy and not necessarily a good thing to do. And yet it doesn't matter. The missionaries can still drive people to follow that mission. The fourth career is the operator. The operators execute and repeat. It's work done for someone else. Your work is measured in keystrokes, clicks, checklists. AI is coming for the operator. It isn't coming for the other three. Now, this is one of the most fascinating things about AI because most of us have jobs that we don't like. You're stuck day to day in the repetition. You wait for the weekend so you can hang out with your family, play, have fun, get drunk, whatever it is that you like doing on the weekend. AI is coming for you guys. It's going for the secure jobs, the thing that is reliable. Or, as somebody once said to me, a job is where somebody pays you to give up on your dreams. AI is coming to replace that, which essentially gives you an opportunity to go for your dreams once more. If you don't like the idea of being a soldier and you don't trust being a fool, your only option for your future is to be a missionary, to find your purpose, to find your vision. I think it was Jimmy Carr that said, "You're truly wealthy if no matter how much extra money you get, your day wouldn't change. You would do exactly what you're doing because that's the thing that you love doing." That's the true definition of wealth. The money is irrelevant. It's not what you buy, it's not the things that you have, it's the things that you do. And for most people, when you are an operator, you're doing something that you probably don't love. You may have convinced yourself you love it. You may like the idea of a little bit of it, and you maybe feel like you enjoy it because you're working towards another goal. With a world of AI, your purpose and your vision, the things you truly want to do, are actually the only thing that AI can't replace. And in many ways, AI is a calling to step up and get work done. Now, there's going to be somebody listening to this saying, we won't get rid of all operators. And you're right, there will be humans. But do you know why we will need them? Because we'll need someone to blame. We'll need someone to tell off when it goes wrong. Someone that we can say, oh, you didn't tell the AI to do it right, now you're fired. And there is a massive desire for that in any company. You need a scapegoat. And it's no good if you tell off an algorithm that is the same algorithm that thousands of other people use that doesn't break, because you'd have to accept it was you that were at fault. So people are going to hire people just so they can blame them. That might be conscious, it might be subconscious, but either way, sadly, that is the reality of what is coming. And at the end of the day, most operators are running out of runway. An operator's job isn't vanishing because the work lacks value. It's vanishing because we live in a world that has been built on the concept of time is money. And because AI is faster, the work it does is more profitable. I've had people say to me, my work is easily double the quality of what I get in AI. And I said, okay, well, if you work 8 hours a day and double the quality equals 16 hours, AI works 24 hours. It's still better than you. AI isn't lazy. AI doesn't get tired. AI doesn't get sick. AI doesn't have any issues having to work late when it needs to. And it is so much cheaper. And the quality of AI that we have today is the worst version of AI we'll ever have. It will never get worse than this. It will only get better. And it gets so exponentially good every single upgrade. I just sat last week, I did a consultation with one of the leading podcasters in the world. His name's Jordan Harbinger. He's got the Jordan Harbinger podcast. It's a very famous podcast. And he talks about, what is happening in the future, what is happening in the world. And within one hour consultation, I showed him AI that he didn't believe we already had access to. And this is somebody that frequently is the leader of the field and knows what's going on. I showed him videos that he did not believe were AI. They were 100% generated by AI using Google VO3. I showed him reports that I created for his show after analyzing his show, where I could create show notes and script. Just blew him away. He'd never seen anything of that quality. And in that one moment, me and he both knew one thing, and that is AI had now become part of his daily workflow. And someone at his company is going to either adopt that process and use it, or they're going to get replaced by somebody who will. I like to say that AI isn't coming for your job. A human that knows how to use AI is coming for your job. And the problem is that human that knows how to use AI is probably going to take two or three people's jobs out in one go because they're so much faster, they're going to get the work done. You probably know the iron triangle of work, which is cheap, fast, and good. You can pick two. If it's cheap and fast, it won't be good. If it's fast and good, it won't be cheap. And if it's cheap and good, well, then you won't get it quickly. AI turns that triangle into an absolute flat line because with AI, it can be cheap, it can be fast, and it can be good. A single prompt can draft an ad or a piece of code in 15 seconds, which is fast. It will go through and iterate it over and over again to ensure that it beats a control, which is good, and it's going to bill you much less than a latte, which is cheap. And while everybody complains about how expensive the electricity is, it's a lot cheaper than paying somebody's hourly salary. And that's something that nobody wants to talk about and nobody wants to compare. Now, in the world of business, this creates a bit of a challenge. You can no longer have speed as a premium feature. You can no longer say, we can turn around your work within a month, sir. That's not good enough. I can do it 20 minutes. In fact, by the time it takes me to explain it to you, I can already have iteration one on my desk. You can no longer talk about quality being a criteria because as AI improves, the average human output doesn't. The average human output stays average, right? But AI gets better and better. So your quality gets better and better. So the differentiating factor isn't quality, it's judgment, the ability to think outside the box. A baseline competence now means nothing. And lastly, cost. At the end of the day, anything that is priced on hours instead of outcome is living on borrowed time. I don't want to pay you for the amount of hours you worked on something. I want to pay you because the work delivered and worked. And so the reality is, this is the future. This is what everybody is going to be dealing with. And I want to warn you now, if you're an employee, like I said, there's definitely going to be a role for you. But the better place is going to be a leader, a missionary. A missionary shouldn't really be sitting back and waiting to make a movement, waiting until they're fired. The missionaries kind of want to jump ship and be the first ones to do it. They want to be out there moving fast. One of my friends recently got let go from a major video game company. He was part of a 300-person layoff. And he's a six-figure-a-year salary guy, and he's head of his department. It's been 6 months. He hasn't been able to get a job. And he said to me, they replaced my entire team with AI, and I'm just not needed. And I said, well, in the same way that they can replace your entire team with AI, can't you replace them with AI? And he looked at me and said, what do you mean? And I said, well, I mean, look at it. You can do the financials, you can do the market research, you can do the marketing, you can do the branding, you can do the graphics. You don't need a team any more than they do. You can use AI. And sure enough, he's in the middle of designing his own video game right now, completely with AI. He went from being one of the largest big box video game company game designers who's made some of the biggest game names in the last 8 years to now being the boss of his own company with no competition. Nobody else is doing what he's doing, and he has no bills. He's got no stresses over him, no staff to worry about. He's doing absolutely everything with AI. Now, what's important, and this is what happens to him, is he finds himself drifting into the old habits. He drifts back into the operator work of doing the stuff himself. And every single time we talk, he's one of my personal clients. I'm like, use AI for that. Use AI for that. He's like, oh, I'm trying to figure out this design. Use AI for that. And as he gets it in his head, oh, I should use AI for that, it rapidly improves him. And he's like, you know what? I'm still holding on to these old processes that ultimately need to go. So at the end of the day, you need to go from being an operator to being a missionary. And even if you're staying in the company you're in, even if you don't want to move, you still got to think like an operator in that, like a missionary in that company, right? Because if I'm going to keep an employee, I don't want an employee that just button pushes and checks in and checks out every day and is reliable. AI will do that. I want somebody who is pushing and challenging and making everything better. So, to start off with, you want to ask every single role that you have, what annoys me daily? What is something I do over and over again that is frustrating? Because anything that has sustained annoyance is a signal that AI should be doing it. Next, anytime you want to achieve something, something that seems insurmountable today, you got to ask AI, how can I do that thing? So, for example, if you're frustrated with your salary and you're earning, I don't know, let's say you're earning 120 grand a year and you want to earn 150, you shouldn't be complaining about it to your friend. You should go straight into AI and be like, here's what I currently earn. I earn 120 grand a year. I want to be earning 150. What can I do to make that shift? And there should really be no complaint that you have that you don't just go into AI and get solved, which is going to be frustrating for many people because we like complaining. And the reality is there's no world for complaints in this future. Anytime someone comes to me now and says, I'm really frustrated with XYZ, I'm like, did you ask AI? And they go, well, what about you? I'm like, yeah, if I had that problem, I'd ask AI. They go, no, I'm asking you. And I'm like, do you want me to ask AI for you? That's all I'm going to do. Right? Most of the time, it's going to be output to AI. You don't come to me with a problem. You come to me when you want something new. You come to me for an outside of the box solution to something that doesn't exist. There's no point coming to me with a basic problem. If there is something that you want to think of that has never existed before, that's where AI fails. And that is where a missionary exists. At the end of the day, you need to become the AI lieutenant. You need to be the person that is using the AI and is in charge of rolling AI out, either in somebody else's company or in your own company or for whatever it is that you're doing. I have 5 children. I am the AI general in my household, and all of my children are responsible for using AI on their own devices. Now, my youngest child is 5, my oldest is 15. My youngest child uses AI. They've all got iPads or iPhones, depending on how old they are. My youngest child uses AI specifically to play Simon Says games. I mean, he really doesn't do anything else. He's like, I want to play Simon Says, and they play Simon Says. He normally uses Alexa. He doesn't even use it on his iPad. He uses his iPad for YouTube or learning games, school games that he's got. And that's pretty much how he uses AI, although he does have an AI tutor that assists him. I've got 2 7-year-olds. They're 11 months apart. My 2 7-year-olds, they use AI in different ways. One of them uses AI to get it to make fart noises, and not really super practical. And the other one uses it to get pictures of unicorns that she can color in. And even though these three are young and they're really just playing with AI at this point, but they are already learning that they can interact with AI and get entertainment, or they can get an item that they want. My daughter doesn't say to me, "Hey, Dad, can you get me a coloring book?" She just creates the image she wants, and that's huge. That's very empowering for her. She doesn't need to wait for me to take her to the store to buy her a coloring book. Now, when we get to my 10-year-old and my 15-year-old, AI is a very different role. Both of them use AI on a daily basis for questions they have when they get stuck with school. What does this translate to? This translates to perfect A's for both of my kids on every single subject at school. Now, some of you are going to say, yeah, but they're using AI, so they're cheating. Yes, and one, they are using AI, but we have a simple rule in our household. If they use AI and they do not score 100%, they're grounded. The idea is if you're going to use AI, you better succeed to 100%. 99% doesn't cut it in a world of AI. This is a very high standard for my kids, right? That was not a standard that I could have lived up to for myself. My children are terrified of not getting 100%. So they double check what they're doing. They double check AI. They cross reference it. They get one shot to get 100%, and they make sure that the AI is doing the job correctly. That is how you use AI correctly. If you're going to use it, it's got to be perfect. It's got to be optimum. I don't need my children to memorize vast amounts of information like I was told at school. I grew up in the 80s. I was born in 1980. And one of my favorite phrases I remember from my teacher, they said, "You won't have a calculator in your pocket every single day of your life. You really have to learn how to do this." And the truth is, I literally have a calculator in my pocket every single day of my life. I actually have a calculator every single day. My teacher couldn't have been further wrong. But I still have really good mental arithmetic. And the reason is simple. I play games. I play Dungeons and Dragons and Warhammer and all sorts of other board games that require mental arithmetic. I do more mental arithmetic on a daily basis than almost anybody else that I know because of the amount of games I play. And I play these games with my children. It keeps my children sharp. It makes sure they're capable of doing basic math in their head at all times. And I make sure they do it. There's no AI at the board game table. That's family time. We're thinking outside the box. We're playing together. My children have a rule. They can't have electronics until 3 o'clock every single day. So they are homeschooled. I homeschool them myself. So they have to do physical, practical activities. And that is a key part of this because while I am rolling out AI, I'm making sure that they also have that human element so they don't become completely reliant on it. My 15-year-old's different. My 15-year-old uses AI in every single way. He's currently developing his own video game, and my 15-year-old's video game rivals. I mean, literally, his mum thought he was playing a video game on Xbox. It's one he's building himself from scratch. He's been building it for 3 weeks, and it already looks phenomenal. What I'm saying is that's your role in a company. Your role is to be the one that is kind of like my 15-year-old that uses AI for everything, that understands that it is an ally to them, that it is their tool, and that it isn't leading them, it isn't replacing them, but it is their way to dominate and basically ensure that they win at anything they're trying to do. It's also worth noting that you should have some kind of scorecard, some kind of way of noting when AI worked and when AI failed. There are definitely times when I'm rolling out AI and I'm like, you know what, this is just not good. I'm not happy with what AI has done. And at that point, I'll say to myself, AI isn't ready for this yet. But where I'm different from other people is I don't say AI can't do it. And a lot of people say AI can't do it, and they're not banking on the improvements that are coming. I just say it can't do it yet, and it becomes something I come back to later. But anytime I do a process, I'm like, well, AI did that really, really well, then that becomes the new way. It is just now the way, and that's what it's going to be in the future. And then lastly, every single time that you do get one of those wins, share it with somebody. They won't always be receptive, by the way. Sometimes you're going to share it with somebody and they're going to be like, I hate that you're using AI. I think I get attacked by people constantly online when I talk about this new cool thing I'm doing with AI. And but you got to talk about it because talking about it is how you cement to yourself that it's real. And you'll find supporters. You'll find people that go, oh, I think that's really, really cool. Can you tell me about it? Look, I've been talking about using AI consistently since 2023. I started using it myself in 2021. Like I said, I had my issue. For the next 2 years, I used it extensively, but I kept it quiet because I'd learned my lesson. In 2023 is when I first started talking about it. In 2023, I was absolutely hated on. Everyone's like, you're part of the problem. And I told them then, I was like, it's already too late. The technology behind AI is predictive text. We've had it in our phones for a long time. It's coming. What I'm saying is get ahead of it so it doesn't take you out. Somebody is going to be taken out, and it's just important for you to make sure that that isn't you. Now, like I said, you got to become a missionary. Okay, the operators are gone. Soldiers will be essential because of accountability, legal, moral, and lethal things that can't be fully automated, right? We're always going to want a human there. And fools are going to endure because audiences pay you for risk, right? Stand-up comedy, I'm sure there'll be at least one AI stand-up comedian, but the reality is going to a show and seeing an actual human fail on stage is, or succeed, is something people are going to want to see a human do, right? But ultimately, if you're relying on being an operator, you are in danger, and that's something that you have to get around. So, with that being said, I want to talk about some practical uses of AI. I want to make sure that you know how to use it practically. And I'm also going to kind of like destroy some myths that some of you may have around it. Now, as tech people, I'm pretty sure that you're somewhat familiar with it. You're probably already using whether it's Cursor or whether you're using Windsurf or whichever of the AI vibe coding platforms you're using, and you're probably using on a consistent daily basis. I do want to kind of like help you out with some stuff. Right now, a lot of people are making the same mistake that the automobile industry made. When automobiles first came around, they said, oh, it's a cart, like a horse and cart. We'll replace the horse with an engine. And that didn't really work. It didn't make for a good vehicle. We call cars as a short version of cart, right? Horse and cart. And we still measure engines in horsepower, right? We still have that connection in our minds. So when cars first came around, they were really built not very well. And somebody had to pause and reimagine the car. as what it would look like if we didn't think of horse and cart and we just created this new thing called the automobile. And that's when cars started getting really, really good and their wheels got better and they had like rubber tires and stuff, right? That's when everything changed and it got better. It's the same with AI. A lot of people now are thinking to themselves, how can I make a software with AI and sell it? I'm like, you guys, you're doing it wrong. That's not what we're going to do in the future. And then some people are saying, oh, I'm going to be an AI automation guy. I'm going to create N8N automations and I'm going to roll it out. That's also not good. And a lot of people say, what do you mean not good? Everyone's doing that right now. Everyone is doing it right now. Look, there's a really simple rule of thumb when it comes to investing. When nobody's talking about it is a great time to invest in it. When everyone's talking about it, you get in a cab and everyone's talking about it, it's a really bad time. I have a buddy of mine, he's a crypto investor, and he starts selling his crypto when he gets into an Uber and the Uber driver talks about their crypto investments. My buddy's like, I'm selling everything, right? When he's getting advice, or from his nan, when his nan is giving, he's like, this is when I sell. And he goes, and when everyone's quiet and everyone hates crypto, that's when I buy. And he goes, I found that has made me more money than anything else. He goes, I don't even look at the market. I just listen to people in Ubers, right, about what they're going to do. And AI is kind of the same thing. Somebody recently released on GitHub 1,800 N8N pre-built automations for business. How are you going to charge for that? How are you going to charge for that when somebody's released 1,800 for free? Software, when I'm bored, I literally will code Space Invaders as a web app and play it myself. I don't go and look for somebody else's. It's faster for me to tell the AI on my computer, make me Space Invaders and play it than it is to find it. I think I've got like 20 or 30 versions of Space Invaders built on my computer. And that gives you an idea of how badly I organize my laptop, by the way. But the point is, it's going to be the future. It's easier to say, create me something that does the thing that I want than it is to spec it out, go backwards and forwards, talk about how good it is, how good it isn't. About 4 months ago, somebody contacted me and said they wanted to hire me to create an app. And they are a little league baseball team, and they had $60,000 available for me to make an app that will partner up. I think they had 200 teams or something, or 160 teams. There's a lot of teams. And to figure out who can fight who, and there are certain playing. I don't know. I'm English. I don't know about baseball. But have a match. I don't know. What do? You play each other? I'll figure it out. Anyway, the point is that they needed to match them up, and some people can't do certain days, and there's conflicts, and they have to have a break in between them. So they wanted an app that does this because it took a lot of time. And I said to them, I would be ripping you off if I took $60,000 for this. And he said, well, I've tried to do it in AI, and it's not good enough. And I said, why don't you just wait a month? And he said, what do you mean? I said, I think it would take me longer than a month to build this. And I suspect within a month, AI will be good enough. Sure enough, we got an update. We got O4 Mini High, which is in ChatGPT, is a very good coding and numerical data analysis model. And within 2 weeks, he could do it internally and he didn't need the software. And I think that a lot of things that we think we will use software for, we will just ask the AI to do it and we won't need it. A good example would be translation. Once upon a time, I needed translation software on my phone. Previous to that, I needed Duolingo to teach me. Now I have Meta glasses that live translate in my ear whenever I travel to Colombia, translating Spanish to English. I literally will never bother learning Spanish because I will just use my live translation glasses. It just wasn't a problem. I didn't need to learn it. And therefore, we will never use translation software ever again, right? Beyond what's already existing or what's there or having AI develop it, it's just not going to be needed. That isn't to say there isn't going to be a use for coding, because debugging, tweaking, fixing, working with AI, adding personal flavor, that's going to exist, absolutely, and it's probably going to need a human to make it efficient. And then don't forget the one other thing that we can always count on when it comes to AI, which is people are lazy. And I've made a hell of a lot of money in the last year by people paying me to do AI for them. And even though it is as simple as just talking to the AI, it appears to be something that people just don't want to do. They don't want to deal with it. They don't want to learn it, especially people that are 50 plus. If they're 50 plus, like, I don't want to deal with it. Just you do the AI thing for me. And so instead of thinking of yourself as a software developer, a coder, or someone in tech, it's worth thinking of yourself as somebody who uses AI, but from a technical perspective. You practically use it and you know how to tweak it and make it work. And understanding that half the time you will not be building a software, you will just be getting an AI to do a process correctly and making sure that it is doing what you need it to do. Now, with this being said, a lot of the softwares that exist right now that are claiming to be AI are skins around an LLM. They're not actually AI themselves. In fact, I mean, most of you know that we don't have AI yet. It hasn't come up. I like to tell everyone it's like Back to the Future 2. We were told we would get hoverboards in 2015. In 2015, we absolutely had hoverboards, but they were segways without handles, right? They called it the hoverboard. It was not a hoverboard, but they told us it was a hoverboard. That's what they're doing with AI. We don't have AI. We have large language models and very good predictive reasoning. And that's about what we have. But people are calling it AI, and the way the English language works, it won't be long before that is what AI is. And then, we'll have actual AI will be something else if we ever invent it. But a lot of these large language models that are good, right? The ones made by OpenAI, ChatGPT is the interface that people use to use it. Gemini from Google, Llama from Facebook. Yeah, Copilot's a thing. It's not a very good thing, but it exists. And then there's Grok, which is pretty good. These LLMs, a lot of them, other company, or Claude is great. They're just building a shell around it, and they're building up saying, "Oh, my company's great," but there is no substance behind that company. The LLM is not theirs. They're not in control of it. It's not something they own, and I believe it's only a matter of time, probably about 18 months, before people wake up and say, I'm paying for all this software and it's all using this same LLM and I can just get ChatGPT to do it. Why do I have all this other software? They get rid of everything and they'll just use the LLM. Now, that would mean I'm predicting an artificial intelligence bust. There's a boom, which we're in, and then there'll be a bust. And yes, I am, and that would be accurate. We had one with the internet age. We had one with cell phones. We had one with personal computers. Of course, we're going to get one with AI. And it's always the same. In the same way that the websites of the early 2000s that didn't really do anything, that were just pretending to be cool, but they were just another portal on the internet, the same way that they failed and Amazon succeeded, we're going to see that with AI. I think it will be the LLMs that succeed, and there'll probably be a few pieces of software that survive. And the reality is, most of these companies are going to collapse. When that happens, that's when people are going to realize software isn't really worth anything. I can just get the AI to do the thing that I need. I don't need a software that does it. But having custom software I need exactly when I need it internally for my own use, now that's different. When I'm repeating a process over and over again in AI with a custom GPT, having a nice custom software package around it, that's interesting. For years, coders have been able to hide behind the fact I don't do UX, I don't do design. Not anymore, my friends. That is now your domain. Your domain is the user experience, is the design, is working with AI to complete the project. Or, as I tell most entrepreneurs now, you can't do a piece of the puzzle anymore. It's not good enough to say, I reach out to clients on your behalf and then you have to sell them. No, no, no. In a world of AI, I expect to pay you for the job and you do the whole process. You reach out, you qualify them, you talk to them, you sell them, and you onboard them into my company. And then I will take over that process. And similar to be for you coders, it's going to be everything. You're going to have to come up with the concept. You might even have to sell that concept to somebody and get them on board with it. And then when they say, okay, yeah, I see why this piece of software is worth building. And then you say, yeah, and then here's the user experience and here's the packaging, here's the design. This is why this is going to look really, really cool. And I even know how we're going to sell it. Here's the plan of how we're going to sell this thing. This is what we're going to do. And that is going to be the process, a much wider, broader process, which then is going to start challenging you internally. You're going to say, but I don't do that. That's not what I've ever done. I have no experience in that. And what you're going to do is you're going to lean on AI to be able to do it. And here's where we get down to the snake oil that exists right now, which is prompting. There are so many people out there right now. Have my prompt library. I teach you how to prompt. This prompt is the God prompt. This prompt teaches you. Prompting is useless. As AI gets better and better, you need less and less detail in your prompting. But I found one prompting system has just given me every prompt I could ever need, ever need. And that is what I call the reverse prompt. And it's very, very simple. So if we imagine that a large language model is where we're pooling from a whole bunch of data that exists in the world to get our answer, I really don't want that. I just want to know the best answer. Or to put it simply, if you wanted to learn how to sprint better, would you want to learn from everyone that has ever written about sprinting on the internet? Or would you just want to learn from Usain Bolt? See what I mean? So the first thing I do when I work with AI and I'm trying to solve a problem is, rather than thinking, what is my prompt going to be? I think, who is the best human to help me with this problem? And I'll start by saying, who are the top three experts in this particular thing? So if it was running, if I wanted to be better at running, I'd be, who are the top three experts at running in the world? The fastest men alive and women. Like, who are they? I want to know who they are. And then The ChatGPT, the AI, whichever AI I'm using, is going to give me a list and say these are the top three people, and then I'm going to like thanks ever so much for that. If all three of those people were to agree on one system that would help me be the fastest runner I could possibly be, what would that system look like? This is the second part of the reverse prompt. If the three experts came together and pooled their knowledge, what would they all agree on is the best thing to do? Now, what I'm doing here is I'm removing disagreements between two people. We're saying anything they disagree on, I don't want to hear about, because that might be personal flavor or something that just works for them. I just want to know, not across the entire large language model, just in these three people, what do they say, what do they think, and what do they do? Now I've got that down. I know I have a pretty solid system of the best three people in the world agreeing that this is the best system to get good at something. And then I say, using that knowledge, what is the best way for me to achieve my goal? Now, you can do this with anything. If I want to make good scrambled eggs, who are the best three people in the world at making scrambled eggs? If these three people were to come together to come up with a unified system of the best way to make scrambled eggs, what would they all agree on? Now, using that system, design me the best scrambled egg recipe to make for breakfast today, right? You change the way that it goes. It doesn't go across the whole large language model. It just focuses on those three people. Guess what? You now know how to do user experience. You could literally say, who are the best three people in the world at coming up with really good user experience for business owners that make between 50 million and 100 million a year in the construction space. And now it's going to say, well, these three people are the best for that kind of UX. Great. If they were going to combine their skills into one unified system on how to do that, what would they suggest? This is the process. Great. Now apply that process for an app that does this. And you are going to get that UX designed. You can do the same with branding, with colors, with everything. You no longer need to hire those people. Now, I'm aware in saying that I've just made a whole bunch of those people redundant, but only to you, only to that project. You were never going to hire them anyway. Because previous to this, you had no interest in doing UX. You definitely weren't going to hire them. You definitely weren't going to work with them. Now, yes, it's true that for this one project, they won't be used, but hopefully they're out there somewhere using the same reverse prompt to code, to not need you, and for them to do that for their own process. Now, is everyone going to be able to do that? No, they're really not. There is going to be a whole bunch of people in the world that are just not going to have a job, and that sucks. And the solution is unfortunately very, very simple. And if anybody politically out there is listening, I've got your solution. You need to implement UBI right now. We need universal basic income yesterday, and we need it urgently, and it's got to come as fast as possible. And I will stand and I will scream on every single platform about how important it is to make sure that people have a basic standard of living. The average person, I don't mean everyone. I mean the people that work in a job that they hate. They turn up every day. You can tell they don't want to be there, but they need that salary to make ends meet. There is something else they'd rather be doing and they can't right now because they need to make ends meet. When you give that human being UBI, there's a chance they're just going to sit on their ass and just watch TV. There is. But there's also a chance they're going to do the thing that they love. I have a friend of mine that finally, after years of doing jobs they hate, got married to a guy that was somewhat successful as a carpenter. And she did the one thing she'd always wanted to do her whole life: bake and sell cakes. Apparently, that's all she'd ever want to do. Pies. Sorry, not cakes, pies. Bake and sell pies. And she sells pies. She advertises them on Facebook Marketplace. She posts in local Facebook groups. And she told me she can make $100 a day selling pies. And I'm like, how much did you use to make at your previous job? She goes, well, about $100 a day. I was like, what do you prefer more? She was making pies. I was like, you could have made this the whole time. You could have absolutely made this the whole time. But she didn't believe she could. She didn't trust her ability to do it. UBI, and this is the future I believe we're going to get with AI, will give her the ability to do that. She'll be able to make those pies. And the companies that are existing on AI, that are growing with AI, will have the money to be able to help support UBI. And so I truly believe that that is the future. But in the short term, where we don't think about everyone else and we just think about you got to put money on the table, or you got to put food on the table, money in the bank. And the only way you're going to do that is to be ahead of what is coming. Which brings me to my next piece. Before you develop a software, before you automate anything in a company, you should really get that company to dial down the process. The amount of people that have tried to sell me software in the past and have failed because they didn't know that my biggest problem was actually the process wasn't organized well enough. And they always said the same thing: well, go away and get it organized and come back. Once again, in a world of AI, that's no good. In a world of AI, you got to be the one to make me automate that process. And it's pretty easy with a custom GPT. Gen in Gemini. Essentially, it is a process that is duplicated over and over again. And rather than going into AI every time and saying, who are the top three people, what is a unified system, and implement it, you build a custom GPT that's already memorized that system. It already knows how to do it. So now, whenever I want UX, I just go to my custom GPT of UX and say, here's my new software, give me a user experience for it. And I know it's going to be based on the three best people. I know it's going to be based on a system that I like that I've used before. This is now a duplicable process. And what's great is because the AI is guiding me through rolling out that process, it's standardized pretty simply. It's organized. And the AI is ensuring that I'm walking through a sequence of steps that have been previously created. After I've done that 4 or 5 times, then I can look at it and say, is this something I want a software that does? Can I remove the human element of typing and talking and just replace it with a single button push that makes that experience better for everybody? And that would be a software worth developing after a custom GPT has done it. If I was somebody who developed software today, I would go into every single company and say, we're going to start with a custom GPT. We'll build them very quickly and we'll see how it works. If it does the job, then I want you to write down all the things it's good at, all the things it's bad at, and we'll see if a software can do it better. And now the company is giving me all the feedback that I need that used to be like pulling teeth, not because they're visualizing it and putting time aside to discuss what they want it to be, but because they're actually trying to use it every single day as a MVP to see that it's going to do the job. And that custom GPT will do all the difference and make it work. Now, at the end of the day, one of the things that every single human is probably going to do is they're going to clone their own knowledge and experience. Now, this is a bit of a risky subject. Some people are like, I don't like the idea of there being a clone, but I want to challenge you on that. Would your kids like to be able to ask you advice for the rest of their life? Not being forced to, but if they could. I know for me, I definitely want to make sure my kids can ask me questions in the future. I've lived a very full life. I've lived in lots of different countries. And I think that my children having access to my knowledge, my grandkids having access to my knowledge, my great grandkids having access to my knowledge is probably pretty useful for them. What if they don't want to hear a media friendly version of a sequence of events and they want to hear what actually happened? Growing up, my grandfather, he ended up in a concentration camp in Germany during World War II. And I grew up with stories of my grandfather telling me about World War II. My dad also lived through World War II as a child. And so I got two first-hand accounts from family members of what World War II was like. And when I talk to other people about World War II that were not as impacted by it by my family, I have very, very different stories. I have a different vision of it because I remember my grandfather telling me stories of how he was captured and what he did. And there is nothing online that compares to that. There is no journalistic account. Maybe it compares to a movie, but it's not my family's story. But when I sit down and I tell my children about my grandfather's story, and for those of you guys watching, my grandfather escaped the concentration camp. And when I tell the story of how he escaped, my kids look at me with pride and they know that it's in their biology to be able to do that. And it lets them know they can accomplish amazing things. Only I could tell that story, and only my grandfather could tell me that story. And now my grandfather's passed. I don't get to ask him other details that as an adult I want to ask him. There's a lot more things I want to ask him about that escape plan. I only know the action sequence because that's all I remember from being a kid because that's what interested me. But I don't know all these other little details that as an adult I wish I knew. Like, how did they figure out when the guards were going on patrol? Like, I knew that they monitored it, but how did they know? Like, how long did they watch that? Like, there's so much that I want to know, and I can never ask him those questions. So I think a lot of us are going to end up creating some kind of information clone. Once the clone's created, you then have an issue if somebody can leak and get access to everything in your head. Well, what is your knowledge compared to Usain Bolt's, right? If you're a runner and Usain Bolt's a runner, his knowledge about running is much more worthy than yours. It's our pride that makes us think what's in my head is more important. No, what's in your head is more sentimental. It's like a piece of jewelry that isn't really worth anything, but to you is worth everything. That's what the clone is really about. It's not about the value of it in terms of knowledge. It's about the value of it in terms of experience. And so I think a lot of us are going to make clones in the future. And once again, it only makes your life easier to have the clone today. One of the first things I did was make a clone. I've had my clone for 2 years. And when a client sends me a question, I'll tell you this now. If you end up becoming one of my clients, I charge minimum $20,000 a year, up to significantly higher. If you write me a question, I have to write in full. I don't write that, my clone does. And I tell everyone, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to take your question, I'm going to give it to my clone. My clone's going to output it, and then I'm going to read it. I'm not just going to send it to you, I'm going to read it. I'm going to read everything my clone says, and I'm going to see if I agree with it. And more often than not, I tweak it. Not a lot. I add subtle tweaks that make sure it's more like what I would have said. sure it's more like what I would have done. And that is the human experience. And that makes it better for my client. But more importantly, I know everything my client said to, oh, sorry, my clone has said to my client so I can give feedback. And although it's not 100% perfect, when I add that tweak, it does become perfect. But now in my company, when someone has a question, they don't ask me, they ask my clone. My clone answers my staff members, and that's the rule. They have to ask the clone before they ask me. That gave me back time. And what did I do with that time? I didn't use it to become wealthier. I didn't use it to make more money. I used it to hang out with my children. And now I tend to work at home with my kids. I tend to sit around them and we work together and I give them feedback on their homework and what they're doing. We will, do some painting together during the day in that spare time. It's not, I'm not working, I'll check my phone, but my clone is helping out a lot and we're making sure we get our work done. And my staff are all required to, if not have a clone, have a custom GPT that helps them through their work. And so likewise, one of my staff members has given themselves a half day today. And that's okay. They've got a list of tasks they have to get done. I presume they're going to use AI to do it. And I'm totally okay with them going to Hobby Lobby in the middle of the day for them to do some shopping for a new office that they're redesigning. And they're having fun redesigning the office, being a missionary of that office, having a vision to what that office is going to look like. And I'm sure they use ChatGPT to create some imagery of it. And now they're going to go to Hobby Lobby to try and find the items that match. If they can't find them, they'll 3D print them after they've designed them in AI because they know how to do that. None of those things would have happened before. The office project would have just been put off. They would have been busy stressing about work. I'd have been stressing about whether they've got it done. It's a more relaxing environment, and it's all because of AI. Now, for everyone here, if you're interested in what I've shared and if you enjoyed this, my website is lyonsconsulting.com. It's Lyons consulting.com. It's in the middle of being built. We started building it 2 weeks ago using AI. So if anyone cares about it, I've had websites before, but the truth is most of the time I just use the company's websites that I'm working with, right? So if I'm working with my construction company, I'll use that one. But I've designed my own one specifically myself so that it can say what I want, do the things that I want. And as always, with everything that I work on, a whole bunch of the stuff is free. And I do this on purpose. If you are a business owner, you're the kind of person I would expect to hire me. $20,000 minimum. My average fee is $50,000. If you're not a business owner, I actually don't like charging you. I'll point you to all my free stuff because I shouldn't be working with employees. I'm not the right person to work with an employee. So I offer a free training. I do it on Friday, 2 p.m. Central Time every Friday. And I tell everyone, I'm like, this is for business owners. If you're an employee, though, you are welcome. Just please don't buy anything at the end. Just sit in the room and listen and learn because I want to help you guys get jobs. I want to help you do what you want, or maybe even launch your own business. And then if you become a multimillionaire, please call me and hire me. But that's my system. And it's kind of like based on the same concept I'm saying. You got to lead with results first. Employees aren't the right people to hire me. Don't use your savings for that. But business owners are. And if I can give you free advice that takes you from an employee to a business owner, and then you want to reciprocate that by hiring me, great. And that's what I believe the future of AI is going to be. It's going to be a results-led economy where you're going to do the thing to prove it and make sure it's good first. And then when someone gets the results, they'll pay you because you're worth it, because they've seen that it's real. And I like that world. I think that's a good world to be in. So that's it from me. Emily, thank you so much for having me. Any questions or anything?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Adam. That was incredible. And I just love your breakdown of the different types of careers that we have and how AI is changing that on its head, right? We have the soldier, the missionary, the operator, and the fool. Thank you
Thanks.
so, so much. That was incredible. Just like so many truth bombs. It was really, really good. We have just a couple minutes left. I want to make sure we get a couple questions in. I think one of the questions that came up is like, do you have any recommendations on specific AIs that you use as your default? Although it sounded like the answer was ChatGPT, but I'm curious if you do have like a specific AI that you like.
Yeah, so the correct answer is you got to use the right AI for the right tool,
Yeah.
for the right job, and there are different AIs that are better at different things. And so, for example, I use ChatGPT a lot for reasoning because that's mostly what I spend my time doing. But it's not the only one I use. I use Google VO for video because it's the best at video. And I think that's the piece that people have to understand, right? You got to use the right AI for the right job. And as AIs evolve, I'll switch between them. Like I never used Llama, but now because of the live translation, I use Llama all the time. It's best at live translation. So, right now, ChatGPT, O3 Pro is the best model. Like it is just the best. If you're a gamer like I am, they used it in diplomacy against the other AIs and it rocked them. It's also really slow. So, if speed's a thing, then maybe I won't use that one or I'll use something different. But yeah, it's the right tool for the right job. Just understand that this isn't biased. ChatGPT is just better. And I know that because I have to make money with AI. And if I try and use the other systems, it fails. With the exception of video and coding. Coding is better in Claude, video is better in VO3. That's as of today.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you so much. That's wonderful. And I think what some other students were asking also, and yeah, you can weigh in or I can also, tag team on that, is if, how coders can start getting ahead of it and using more effectively. And I think you in some sense you answer, you're just like, just go to ChatGPT, like just go to it like first. I think as a learner, there's probably some like caution on when to use it. But I was curious, like, if you're someone who's like setting out to learn how to code and be one of these new knowledge workers, like armed with AI, how would you recommend that somebody like go out and become that thing?
So here's a good question for you all. Have you all actually coded in AI before? Um, like, are there people here that have not? It's good.
I don't know.
Okay, so
I do
here's
all
what
the time.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say most people do, right? But I find the best way to do it is to just do it. And I don't code at all, right? I've got no need to. But like I said, I like going into Grok, and I like, saying to Grok, if it will show me my past things, like I said, like, make me a game of Space Invaders, and I'll just, sit here and be like, I really want to, play a game of Space Invaders. Oh, yeah, I won't reload it. See why I end up remaking them all the time? This is exactly why. It's a good example. And you ask Brock to fix, right? You can tell that I don't really code. But I will literally sit here and I love that just totally failed. Oh, there we go. Let's fix it. But I will just play with it and build things in the background. And I think there is no better way to use AI than to just play with it constantly. So if you haven't done it, get in there and start building it and look at what it's doing. And all the critique that you have, don't make it like, it sucks. Like, go and fix it, play with it. And if you're like, this took longer than it would have taken originally, yeah, maybe, but it will get better and it gets better and better and better. And Grok isn't the best one. It's just the one that I use because, oh, there we go. Right. So there's my version of Space Invaders. I mean, I could never have done that. I'm not like any of you guys, but the fact that I can, the fact that I'm capable of it, shows me what's possible. And I would just make sure that, I mean, you guys literally just watch someone who doesn't know how to code go from a completely broken piece of code to something that, kind of worked. So play
Exactly.
with it.
So good. I know I love playing that idea of playing with it. And I think it's about balancing as well, like getting those foundations down. Because we focus on teaching the foundation so people can be generic, awesome problem solvers. And it doesn't matter like what tool for the job is the right tool for the job. It could be coding, it could be AI, it could be a hybrid, right? But at the end of the day, you have to be able to debug it and run it and think through it. And so that's really what we're teaching is like a systematic way of solving problems. And so for any students listening, like you still want to get those basics down so you can do it yourself. Just like you can't actually talk to AI until you know the alphabet, right? Like until you can put words together. There's still foundational elements that must be learned. Do you need to know all your arithmetic? Well, after your basic 10 numbers, maybe not, right? Like, but you still need to have those foundations down. But now you can accelerate your progress because now you can start building things that are beyond what you might have learned to do, but you know how to debug them, how to get them running, how to make them secure, how to actually make them live, right? Like all those other pieces. And so that becomes about the role. And I love, Adam, how you focused on in the new economy, it's really about creating newness, right? Like AI can like rehash things that we've done before as humans, but not things that have never existed. And so I
So like,
think, yeah,
yeah, to add to that, right? You,
yeah,
you literally watched me debug it, not knowing any of the code. I didn't
right,
understand it. I debugged the game and I got the game working. The value of a coder would be looking at them and be like, what'd be really cool? I'm like, what? If the game did this.
right.
And then I'm like, oh, how would I get the AI to do that? And you go, well, we can tell the AI to do that this way. Now, and then if it broke, and it's like, oh, it broke, rather than just saying, hey, fix this, it's like, hey, I'm not going to hit that button right now because I think it's going to fix it the wrong way. Let me rework that code a little bit so it understands what it's doing. Let me explain to the AI what I'm doing with my suggested code and seeing if it can work with me. And the minute I see you do that, I'm going to be like, you know what? Would you like to finish my Space Invaders game for me? Because suddenly I realize I'm dealing with someone who understands it better than I do. And as cool as it is that I've made Space Invaders, you've given me an idea for a better version of the game. Everything about it is better. When you show me that better version, by the way, you didn't charge me for that, you just did it. And I'm like, well, that is really cool. That's great. And then you go, I've got like 10 other ideas. And then I'm like, oh, well, that one you gave was great and you implemented it. Okay, let's talk about the other 10. You go, listen, I would love to, but I've got to be honest with you, I'm kind of falling in love with the project. I'd like to come on board with you on it. Do you have availability for that? Would you be open? If I did the work, I worked with the AI and I did it, would you be open to sharing it with me? We'll use your platform to launch it, your core concept, obviously. But would you be okay with me having a piece of it to implement these 10 ideas that I have that I think are going to make it that much better? And I'll do all the legwork for it. This is a different negotiation than most coders would ever have. And yet, it's the better one. It's the one where you don't get paid by the hour and you don't get told you have to work late. It's the one where you're in love with the project and you're working on it because you want to work on it. I've made 20 versions of Space Invaders and I haven't launched one. And none of them have done anything other than what basic Space Invaders done. I've never thought about it. I've never tried to make it better. I don't really care about it. But if the right person sat down next to me and said, I love that version you just made, and you have a platform of 300,000 people, would you be down to make a version of Space Invaders that does this? You're shooting political leaders out the sky that you don't like or something. I don't know. Like, oh, that's a good idea. I don't know how to get the imagery in. Oh, I can do that. I'm gonna have to upload those images or what have you. All right. So that's what I'm talking about. So yeah, thank you, Emily, for that. That's key.
Awesome. So good. And I also think like the types of software that will make sense that go beyond, internal are the ones that connect communities. I think that's what we're seeing as well now is it's all about community and support. And so like apps that connect communities, that's gonna be where it's at because that's what AI is bringing us.
And
Excellent.
in person's
Yeah,
huge. Any opportunity to meet people in real life is just going to be worth because you never know if you're dealing with an AI avatar.
right.
I love doing things like this. Like I'll sit there and I'll like rub a can over my face and drink it so everyone can hear it. And I do these things so everyone knows I'm a human. Because at the moment, AI can't do those weird, quirky things. I'm sure it
Right.
will. But,
In time.
yeah, but it's cool because when you do stuff like that, that's what lets people know it's a real human being. You're like, okay, I like this person.
Right.
And meeting in person is going to do the same thing. It'll be worth that much more.
Exactly. So good. Last question I think I see is do you have, and I also have 5 kids, Adam, so that's awesome.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, are you seeing a shift to more agentic coding versus just AI coding?
Yeah, look, I think the reality is agentic is the new cool buzzword, right? Like that's the new thing. And really it's just saying more tasks than one, right? AI is like do this one thing. Agentic is like achieve this process through this sequence of things. Yeah, that's the natural evolution, right? It's going to do that more. But again, there are already people being like, I've made 1,800 free agentic things for you to use. This is the future. The future is any of that stuff is just going to be devalued. You won't be able to be like, I've made this generic thing. It's going to be so much better when you come to me and be like, hey, I got this one idea for you. Here's the thing I think you should build. And when I'm like, I don't know how to get AI to do that, or maybe I'll tell AI to do it. Hey, AI, do it, and it doesn't do a good job. And then you're like, it didn't work, right? I'm like, yeah. And you go, yeah, you can't build it that way. But I think we can put together 3 or 4 different AI solutions. I think we can build an agentic solution combined with some custom coding, a good UX that's going to be a great idea for you. That's the difference. And now the coder goes beyond just sitting down and pushing buttons to iterating and imagining and being a visionary, being a missionary.
Exactly. Oh, so good, Adam. Thank you so much.
Thank
We're
you.
gonna be sharing this, right? It's gonna be replayed, and we're gonna share with our whole audience. I think they're gonna get so much out of it. I think this is so valuable, and I think for anyone that's looking to break into tech, like please definitely like learn the basics and then learn to use AI as quickly as possible. We've been using it on our internship, so no worries there. But yes, absolutely. And if anyone who is watching the replay is a founder and is looking to take their business to the next level, I urge you to go to lionsconsulting.com and check out what Adam's doing because it is off the hook. Thank you so much, Adam,
Thank
for
you for having me,
giving
Emily.
us a
And
minute.
thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Have a
Adam.
great one. All right.
Cheers.